We talked about authenticity, and you've got to be authentic. It's got to be you. Isn't there a song like that? It's got to be you, and it's got to be your idea. Now you can take other people's ideas and mix and match. It's like cooking, but what comes out is going to be yours. The end result is going to be yours.
Hello, I'm your host, Evelyn Clark, and this is the Six Star Business Podcast, where we have conversations with amazing, incredible people all about what it takes to be six star, going beyond the status quo, doing things differently, and how they bring purpose, love, and impact into their businesses every day. This conversation with Joe Matz was excellent. Just such a delight to record, to spend time with him. I learned about his journey. And there's one thing I love learning about is people's journeys and what brings them to where they are today. And Joe's got a journey that's quite unique. He's lived abroad in different continents and developed businesses and having had to learn different languages. And he's just so humble and gracious and experienced. So what he brings is perspective. And that's something that you can't buy. You can't buy it off a shelf. You can't learn it from someone else very easily, but you can get it from the experience and being so far out of your comfort zone that you learn who you are. And I believe that's one of the greatest gifts that Joe's received from his journeys. And he even acknowledges it. He has perspective and he's got tons of it. He's got great products. He's got a great business. He's very humble. He's got an amazing lifestyle. He values time with his family, with himself, and with his clients, all balanced. He's got it nailed. I really like Joe. This is a great conversation, and I know you're going to enjoy it as much as I did. This is Joe Matz.
Rock and roll.
Rock and roll. Oh, I love it. I love every conversation I have, and this is going to be another one. So welcome, Joe. I am really excited to have you here on the Six Star Business Podcast. It's been a little while in the making, but finally we made it. Here we are.
We figured it out. It's glad to be here, and thank you for having me on your show.
You are so welcome. I'm so looking forward to getting to know you and sharing you and the genius of you and the insights of you with our guests. And I always like to kick off by asking my guests a few questions just so we get to know you. And I would like to start with the most difficult question of all, and that is, whereabouts are you in the world?
I am in Raleigh, North Carolina. That's on the East Coast of the United States.
Wonderful. I've never been there, so I'm just sort of imagining the map of the US, and you're on the east somewhere.
East Coast, halfway between Florida and New York.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
That gives me some context, perspective.
It's a great place. Great place to be.
Nice. Thank you. And so it's the afternoon for you. It's the morning for me. Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah. Love it.
Yeah, that's great. Well, thank you for getting up early to have this conversation.
You're welcome. And tell me, Joe, who do you serve in the world and how do you serve them?
So I serve business owners and mostly service-based, knowledge-based business owners. So I'm talking about coaches, tutors, could be physical trainers. I help them with their programs, what they do, how they stand out in the world with their marketing, their branding, and how they are different from everyone else out there so that they can attract their ideal clients.
Love it. Love it. And how long have you been doing this?
Oh my gosh. I've been helping folks with marketing and sales for longer than I want to admit. I ran a sales organization in Italy and then Brazil in the 80s and the 90s when I was very young at that time. And I got involved with training. I got involved with helping people with sales and marketing. I spoke from the stage. I traveled to Thailand. Someone actually paid me to go to Thailand to speak from the stage. It was just a great trip. And, so I've been doing that for years and years. specifically working with helping business owners create their signature program so they stand out from the crowded marketplace. I've been doing that for about 2 years now.
And did that particular positioning come about due to COVID? Because I'm finding that a lot of people that new things have popped up since, lockdowns hit and, the world was forced to, look at themselves in a different way, and businesses have been forced to reimagine themselves. Is that what happened to you as well?
I think COVID did play a part in that. I was looking to do something that I could do from home. I've been coaching, a full-time coach now for almost 12 years, but I wanted to help other folks stand out because a lot of people, when COVID hit, they had lost their jobs or were laid off or were finding themselves at home with extra time, and they wanted to utilize their expertise. So they had what I like to call the keys, and I spell keys K-E-E. It's knowledge, experience, and expertise. And they had that, but they didn't know if it had any value. And if it had value, they didn't know how to get it out there, get it into the public, and create a program that could teach people what they knew. And I used to tell people, I still do, there's 7 or 8 billion people in the world, right? That's a lot of people. And if you're successful, if you have any level of success, and that could be in your home, it could be your knitting that you do, or it could be building businesses. You have knowledge, experience, and expertise that you can help folks on their journey who are not as far along as you are. So it's kind of like climbing a mountain. If you've climbed the mountain and you know where the rough spots are, you know where the danger is, you know where you need ropes or ladders or climbing equipment, you can help folks who aren't as far up on the mountain as you are. But you need to know how to do that. And that's what I help people do.
I love that description, Joe. Really love it. And I also can feel the authenticity and the passion in your voice as you're talking about this.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I am very passionate about business. I mean, I've been in small business all my life. It's been a great journey.
We're going to get in. I'm going to ask you about that in just a tick, but I've got another question first, and that is, what do you like doing outside of business when you're not busy serving people and being in business?
Aveline, I have so many interests outside of business. I like to read, of course. I've got an e-reader and tons of books on there. I like to mountain bike. I used to race mountain bikes in Italy. I like to sail. I used to race sailboats in Brazil when I was living in those countries. And I like to go camping. I like to be out in the woods. I will take my hammock and a couple days of food. I don't even need a tent. Just my hammock, a couple of days of food, and I'll get lost for 2, 3, 4 days in the woods. My wife, however, not such a big fan. So we bought a camper. We bought a little camper that fits in our garage, and the dogs love it. My wife loves it. So I'm a happy camper.
So the camper, is that like something that you attach to the back, like on a trailer?
Yes. Yes, it is. It's one of those small teardrop campers. It's basically, and this does not sound very elegant because it's not. It's basically a bed and a kitchen on wheels. Right.
Well, so it serves its purpose then. You have somewhere to sleep and you can cook as well.
Yeah, and we go camping to be outside. Funny thing, we've been camping a number of times in the last 3 or 4 months since we got this camper, and we see folks with the big campers. They're 7 meters, 10 meters long, and we don't see those folks about 10:30 or 11 o'clock in the morning. They're inside, they're having their coffee, they're watching TV. We're out and about. We've already walked 5 miles with the dogs. We made our eggs and bacon outside on the outside stove, and we're sitting by the lake in our chairs, and these people come out of their campers for the first time.
Yeah.
I've already lived half the day and enjoyed the heck out of it. Not that there's anything wrong with that.
No, exactly. So my question is, how comfortable is it?
It's very comfortable. Yeah, it really is.
Right.
There's a heater,
Hmm.
there's an air conditioner. We've got the bed in there, and the dogs are in there with us, and I mean we're fine. I'd go tonight if I could.
It sounds so exciting. And so do you feel that you're really close to nature when you're out there sleeping in your camper?
Yeah, well, we still do. I'm more close. I can't say more closer, right? I'm closer to nature when I'm just out there with my hammock. But because my wife and my dogs can be with me in the camper, and that's just a whole better situation.
Yeah, you've got your family with you.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, and a lot of love. That's lovely. I've just got this image in my mind of you out there by yourself, like with a hammock. And I'm like, how does he do it? Like, aren't you scared? Like, is there any danger in that? Do you ever get woken up in the middle of the night by strange noises?
No, I have not. And I think the reason is there danger out there? It's not as safe as being in the trailer in a campsite with other people around. I have to admit, it's probably not as safe. But because I'm so tired from walking, I sleep like a baby. Because usually I'm hiking anywhere from 8 to 13, 14 miles a day. And so I sleep really well. And I'm up off the ground. And I've got a bug net. I've got a tarp. I've got, I never really worry about anything. There's some noises at night, but they don't bother me. It's not for everyone. I will say that. It's not for everyone.
Yeah. Well, I'm in admiration of you, Joe. Really, really, I am. I love it.
You should try it.
One day I will. Yeah. The closest I've been is there's a eco kind of resort in the far north Queensland. And I think it was the year before COVID hit. I went up and I stayed there. And it's on a hill, it's a mountain actually right next to the ocean. And it's they have these little walkways it's built on walkways, these little huts. And it's made of, the walls are made of the just kind of the mesh material so that all the air can come through. And you have an outside toilet and an outside shower. And you're on these walkways because it's all, I don't think it's the local wildlife and habitat is all protected. And so a lot of them walk underneath. So you're like 2 feet off the ground on these walkways and everything's built. And you've got the wildlife walking around underneath you and a zipped up kind of cabin with a roof, but then everything else is sort of the dark green and it's made of, it's kind of almost like a mesh.
Almost like a screen.
Yeah, like a screen, yeah. And that's what you sleep in. So it feels like you're in nature because you're there, but you're in a bed. And yes, that's the closest I've been. And it was quite interesting the first night I tried that and just hearing things rustle about and move about. And it was, quite disconcerting. But then I slept, and I slept very, very long and solidly. So
It sounds beautiful. Sounds wonderful.
It really was. I was actually thinking about that the other day. But this is about you, and I'm really keen to get into the journey because you are a journeyman. You like to go on these hikes, you like to be in nature and do all this stuff. So I'd love to know a bit more about the journey that you've been on that's brought you to where you are today. I mean, you've touched on a couple of things already, and I'm fascinated. You've lived in Brazil, you've lived in Italy. Please share with me, any of and all of the journey, Joe.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm not sure we have that much time, but we'll shorten it up. I've always been interested in business. I'm a fourth generation business owner. So growing up, small business ownership, it was just part of the DNA. That's what you do. And my orientation going through high school, high school, I guess it started, was to work in restaurants. By the time I graduated college, I had worked in 8 or 10 different restaurants, from washing dishes to being a chef's help, to waitressing, to being a waiter, to being a busboy, being a dishwasher, everything. And when I graduated, the idea was to buy a franchise, actually a taco franchise, northern New Jersey, southern New York area, buy an area, and then open 1, open 2, open 3, open 4, and have these franchises. So I went to work for a franchise, a popular burger franchise in the U.S. After college, I went there, and I figured I need some training, because now I have all the theoretical stuff from school, where they dump stuff in your brain and then you dump it back out on tests. But I wanted the practical knowledge. So I went to work for this burger franchise, and I was where I wanted to be, doing what I wanted to do. And about 6 months into that, I got an offer to go to Italy. A businessman had lost his eyes on the ground and needed someone to be his eyes on the ground, looked after his interest. And he made an offer to me for 2 years. And I said, if I don't go now, when will I ever go? I had already been international. I spent 4 months in England during college, did a semester over there. I'd been skiing in the Alps before that. So traveling was kind of normal. I'm like, 2 years in Italy, why not? And I went to Italy. I didn't know anyone. I didn't know the language. And I didn't even know what I was supposed to do. I stayed there for 5 years. I became the sales lead in Italy. I traveled around Italy teaching sales folks how to sell and teaching them about vitamins. I knew about vitamins, so I did that. When they wanted to go to South America, they asked me if I would head up the operation in South America. So I moved to Brazil, got married. Oh, there was that. Yes, I got married in between there to an Italian. My children were born in Brazil. We say they were locally produced with international material. And I stayed in Brazil for 9 years. I ran an organization. I traveled all over Brazil. I got involved with public speaking, which was so much fun. I got to travel around. People treated me like an expert. I'm the expert from out of town. So it was a lot of fun speaking to crowds from 300 people to 3,000 people. And then I was done with that, moved back to Italy, and I started a language school. And that was a lot of fun. And then in the summer, I had some friends, because nobody works in Italy. Well, I shouldn't say that. A lot of people don't work as much as they do when it's not the summertime, because the beaches are beautiful. It's just great. So I didn't have students during the summer, and some friends and we started a mountain bike tourism company. And that was great fun. We had so much fun.
So just to interrupt, a couple of questions there. Was that the language school the first business then that you'd started?
I would say in Brazil, the first business I started was the public speaking and being on public speaking. I also rented large convention halls and brought in speakers from the U.S. So that was all part of it. Yes. So I don't know if that you would call that the first business. It's kind of a mix up there.
Yeah. And how many languages did you know then by this point?
At that time, I knew 3 languages.
Right.
It was Italian, Portuguese, and English. Mm-hmm. And I taught English. And the thing is, Evelyn, here's that school. So when I started teaching English, I never thought of myself as an English teacher. I thought of myself as a language school owner. Even though I started by using, 8.5 by 11, those are inches, not meters, 8.5 by 11 pieces of paper, hanging them up in businesses saying, if you want to learn English, call Joe. That was my marketing. And it worked. And I got clients and I got recommendations and I met other teachers and I was teaching in schools and businesses at local communities. And then I had no more time and I had to hire people to teach. We ended up teaching Spanish and German along with English. And I ran the language school. So what began as just me hanging up these little pieces of paper on businesses and became a real business. That was the vision, and that's what happened. And it was great fun. It was really, really enjoyable. And after 4 years, I moved back to the U.S. I let go of the business. I basically gave it to the teachers. If I knew then what I know now, I would have sold the business. I lost out on somewhere between $75,000 and $100,000. I could have just sold the business, but I gave it away to the teachers who had helped me to grow the business. And then I moved back to the U.S., ended up running a restaurant, among other things. We had 42 employees. We had 130 seats, full bar and restaurant. And that was a lifestyle. That wasn't a job. That was a lifestyle. I actually formed a company, and this restaurant hired my company, and I managed the restaurant. So that was very, very engaging. If you've ever run a restaurant, if you've ever known anyone who managed a restaurant, it's a very, very much a lifestyle.
It's all encompassing, isn't it?
It is. It is. Yeah, that's a whole nother story, but we won't get into that.
So is the family happy to move back to the US? Well,
at that point, I was the family.
Right. Okay.
Got divorced. My children decided to stay in Italy, and I moved back to Italy on my own. Yeah. It was time to come home. That was 18 years overseas. And, running the restaurant was like having a family, because I was there. I felt like the restaurant was an extension of my living room. I'd wake up and I'd wake up late because I was working late, but I'd go to the restaurant, get ready for lunch. I'd work till 3 o'clock, 2 o'clock maybe. Then I'd go home, take a nap. Then I'd be back at the restaurant at 5, and I'd work until 2 o'clock in the morning sometimes.
Yeah.
And wake up and do it all, go home, go to sleep, wake up and do it all over again.
Yeah, that's what it's like. And so how long did you do the restaurant gig for?
Oh, that was about 3 years. Yeah. And then it was time to get out. I realized the lifestyle was not something I wanted to live for long term. So I started looking at what to do, and I got into the mortgage business right before the housing crisis.
Great time to enter.
Yes, in fact. So I got out of that, and I started looking at what I could do. Somebody said, Joe, you've had 10 businesses. You've been all over the world. Why don't you be a coach? And I said, what's a coach? I didn't know. And they told me, and I started looking into it. And I took a course. It was a 13-month course, 120 hours of teaching and about 130 hours of actual practice. And I got my certification, and I started coaching. And that's kind of where I am today. I've got different specialties. I've done different things. It's marketing, but it's all about growing businesses. It's all about helping folks figure out. Sometimes it's figuring out, what do you need to do, and how do you do it? There's so much out there that can be done, and just because it can be done doesn't mean it should be done.
I'd like you to unpack that a little bit, because I think, in my experience being in business, there's certain, I guess, expectations or norms in our society that I think we're expected to take on, and it's like, well, you're in business, you're in this kind of business, you need to do it this way. This is the path, But we're all different, right?
Right. I think we're in the age of authenticity, and you can't try to be someone else. You'll never be as good as someone else at being them. You're good at being you, and you're an expert at being you. Sometimes the journey is about discovering and unveiling you and letting that come out. And I know, because that's part of my journey. I'm a little bit freer now. I'm a little bit more open, and it's freeing. I used to think I had to be straight. I had to wear a tie. I had to wear a suit. I don't do that. I'm pretty casual. I have the knowledge. I don't have a suit. So if you want a coach who has a suit, I'm not your guy. I wore a suit every day of my life for 14 years, and I don't wear them now. Right? So what are the expectations? Sometimes that's a good place to start. What sits well with you? What if you didn't have these expectations? What if you could do what you wanted to do? Be who you are and explore that and expose that. Would that work? Yeah. And I can say that categorically to all 7 billion people who are listening to this podcast. You'll attract a lot of people and you'll repel a lot of people. And that's okay. Some people will be attracted to you because you are you. Some people will want to run away because you are you. And it's just not, he's not the guy. I can't work with him. And that's fine. That's fine. There's other people who can help you, who you'll jive with. Right.
You said that really eloquently, and I couldn't agree more. I think I'm excited actually to be here at this point in time in this age of authenticity. And I feel that people now are expecting to see that more from other people, and people are becoming more brave to step out and be more authentic and bring parts of that out. And yeah, we see a gross oversaturation of that sometimes on social media that some people do. It's like, I didn't really need to see that. But for some, that's just them in their fullest expression. And sometimes, the pendulum has to swing one way before it actually reaches back, to its equilibrium. I think as business owners, there's still a long way to go, because there's a lot of business owners who have been in business a long time and done things a certain way. And I'm sure that COVID has rocked the foundations of everybody in some respect. And hopefully those business owners who were holding on to the old ways of doing things have seen that there is a way that they can do things a little bit differently and authentically and do it better.
Yeah, absolutely. And some people will stay with the old ways. And that's okay, because there are some clients who want to buy things and engage in the old ways. So it's perfectly fine. It's perfectly fine. If you're out there, if you're in front of new audiences, if you're getting your message out there, you'll be found. It's pretty simple in my book. You'll be found. As long as you're out there talking with people, getting in front of new audiences, you'll be found.
Yeah.
And you don't have to be perfect. Right? I did a live yesterday and I wasn't sure, something had happened. Maybe I had another program running and I'm looking at the screen. I'm saying, I don't know what, and I'm looking like this. So, and I didn't even start talking until about 8 or 9 seconds into it. And I let it go. It's fine. It's fine. I apologize. I said, I've had some technical difficulties. It's really a difficulty between my ears, probably. And, so I just let it out that is going to make the bloopers real. I've done so much online, and every once in a while something happens like that. So I've got a bloopers reel. I'm collecting audiograms and little snippets of video where I've made mistakes. And, I can't, it's kind of like, I can't wait to accumulate enough that I can actually make a bloopers reel, but I'm not trying to make mistakes on purpose either.
I just think they're part of life. They're just like it's like the pepper on the meal, or the spice in the soup. This is what makes us human, and this is what makes things exciting and alive. If we were all perfect, there's no such thing as perfection. And the bloopers reel sounds great. What a great way to honor that part.
I'm going to put it out there. I'm saying, if you're looking for someone who's closer to perfect than I am, you'll find them. Yeah, your journey fascinates me, Joe. I love
hearing people's stories. I love, hearing their journeys, why they've done things, what they've learnt from them, and, how that little meandering pathway has traversed different, spheres, continents, careers. You've obviously done a lot. And so you bring so much experience and expertise to your coaching. So I can imagine that there would be really any kind of business owner you could serve. Is that right?
So I believe so. And I have worked with business owners in many different industries. Part of that is thinking out of the box. Evelyn, I don't even know where the box is. Living overseas, working in different cultures, working in different languages, being on stage with translators until I could speak Italian or until I could speak Portuguese. It is a lot of experience. It's been a wild ride. And I think one of the things that I bring to the table is a different perspective because of the different cultures, because of the different businesses. It amazes me sometimes when I look back on where I've traveled and what I've done. And, the sports has always been big for me. Participating in sports, not so much watching, but participating in sports and talking with people, getting out there.
Participating in life, really.
Yes. Life is meant to be lived.
You're certainly doing it well. Joe, has there been a moment on the journey where something happened that made you kind of go, stop? Oh my gosh. I know now what I needed to learn, or was there a pivotal kind of aha moment that brought you closer to, I guess, the journey that you're on today?
There have been a number of instances like that, yes. So when I moved to Italy, I actually got a job the second time I went to Italy, right? And I said, I'm going to try something different. I'm going to get a job with a boss who's like right there. And I got a job and the pay was not what I wanted. So I talked to the owner. I said, hey, I can't do this for this amount of money. He said, well, what do you want? I said, I want this. He said, okay, sign the contract. This will be on paper, but we have this side deal. I said, okay. It was the first paycheck. I didn't get anything from the side deal. And so I went to talk with him, and he basically said this. He said, Joe, the contract is the contract. I said, what do you mean? He said, the contract is the contract. I said, what about our side deal? What about what we talked about? He said, Joe, the contract is the contract. It was probably an hour later, I had my resignation on his desk, and I left. And I said, if I have to put up with that to have a boss, I don't need a boss. I don't want a boss. I said, I'll try my luck at teaching English. I can teach English. I learned how to teach English as an English teacher, actually. And so that's what I did. It was an aha moment. It was a moment I thought, I don't really need this in my life. And so I started the language school. That was a lot of fun. Another aha moment was when I first traveled. It was, I had this offer to go, and I thought about it, and it's, that's a change of life, from moving from the U.S. to Italy, not knowing anyone, not speaking the language. It was very interesting. Yes. Most recently, I'm a member of a group, and I'm a co-host of a podcasters group. And we do mixers where we have, every 3 or 4 months we get together with the host and people who want to guest on podcasts. And we ask them, what would you like? What do you need from us? How can we be more valuable to you? And they said, we want to be on more podcasts. We want to know how to make podcasts part of our marketing system and how we can get a return on our investment for time and whatever equipment we might have to buy. How do we do that? And so I put together a course. that was an aha moment. I'm like, I can give them some information. So I put together a course on podcast guesting and how to have success in podcast guesting.
Oh, maybe I need to have a look at that course, Joe. It sounds awesome.
Yeah, you can go on podcasts. You've been on podcasts. You've been on my podcast. You're a great guest.
Thank you.
But there are certain hacks, and I like to call them hacks because they're little tiny modifications that you can do that will improve your engagement, that will improve your ROI for podcast guesting. And they're not difficult to do, but they do take a little bit of knowledge, knowing what to do and how to do it. And that's what the course is about. It's very hands-on. It's very much let's get it done kind of thing. Yeah.
Great. Well, I'll make sure we've got the link to that course in the show notes below as well. And that sounds fabulous. We'll share that with our audience. Joe, what would you say your genius is?
I think my genius is part listening to people. When I'm in a coaching situation, I am so fully focused on the person and what they're saying and what they're not saying and what's behind that. And I can ask questions that will allow them to dig deeper, sometimes deeper than they had gone on their own. Almost act as a mirror, as a reflection, and not prying, that's probably a bad word, right? Digging deeper into what's going on. Because I think a lot of people have a genius inside of them that they don't realize. There's knowledge, there's experience, there's expertise, and I help to bring that out. So I have suggestions, and sometimes I'm consulting as opposed to coaching, but I want the individual client to have ownership of the ideas. I had someone come to me at the restaurant one time, and there were a couple people in the office, and he's got this idea. It's a pretty good idea, but I know it's not perfect. I know it could be better. But I complimented him. I said, that sounds great. What do you need from me so you can go ahead and do that? And, he left the office. There's a little more going on, but he left the office, and someone in the office said, Joe, I don't think his idea is the best idea. And I said, you're right. However, I would rather have him committed 100% to an idea that's 85% perfect than being 50% committed to my idea. It's got to have ownership, commitment, and it ended up being really good. And we adjusted along the way, but he took ownership of that. And you could tell in his eyes that he was so happy that I approved of his idea and that I was willing to give him support for that idea and not knocking him down or saying, the famous phrase, that's a great idea, but let's just tweak it a little bit. At that point, it's not his idea anymore. And the commitment level can be drastically reduced. So we don't like that.
No. How important is it for you to do that with your clients? Is that part of just the way that you work with them to help them to take ownership of their own?
Yeah, it's very important. I've had a number of coaches throughout my career, and I had one coach that led me down a certain path, but that was his path, and he was trying to project that on me. And I was there. He's the expert. He knows. I'll do that. It never really felt quite right, and it never panned out. So I'm very careful about that. We talked about authenticity, and you've got to be authentic. It's got to be you. Isn't there a song like that? It's got to be you, and it's got to be your idea. Now, you can take other people's ideas and mix and match. It's like cooking, But what comes out is going to be yours. The end result is going to be yours. And it may take some tweaking along the way, may take some adjustments, of course. You know, when we first went to the moon in 1969, we shot a rocket to the moon. 1969. Imagine where the computers were at that point. Right? We have more power in our phones today. But they aimed at the moon from the Earth, at moving targets. And as the rocket flew up, they adjusted the course along the way. They had to. They adjusted it along the way so that it arrived at the moon. When we have an idea and a new initiative, we have to do the same thing. We have to get on the launch pad and we have to launch in the general direction. Maybe we're gonna aim right there, but we have to adjust along the way so that we hit our mark.
How important is it for business owners to have a coach to help them with that journey?
I think it's essential. I think it's so important to have someone who has a different perspective, someone who has maybe the experience, but who can ask the questions. And when I first started coaching, people said, well, I can just talk to my friend. Well, you could. But does your friend have a certain personal interest? Your friend doesn't want you to start a business, then you can't go bowling with him on Tuesday and Thursday nights. If you're starting this business, you're not going to be able to go bowling. Maybe there's another agenda. A true coach has really no agenda except the success of their clients. So I think it's very important to talk with a coach, to be involved with a group or community where you can try out your ideas. You know, I'm very fortunate. I have a very intelligent wife, and she has a different perspective than I do. And sometimes I'll just say, hey, babe, am I thinking right on this? I've got to write this email, and am I thinking right in the way I'm supposed to write this email? So she reflects back to me and tells me, and that helps me be better. And I have communities like that. I have individuals like that. I have friends where we call up and say, what's going on? Oh, this is going on. What do you think? Let's talk about it. It's a lot of fun because I like learning, and I understand I'm not perfect. I understand there's a lot of room for improvement. As I once told my mother-in-law, I said, I think I'm a long-term project.
Newsflash, Joe. We all are.
There was something about cleaning the kitchen or something. I don't remember.
What a great answer to her, though. What you're talking about now is really relevant to me, but also in the community that I run with Six Star Business, because what we were talking about just yesterday was this importance of the mirror effect and having people around you who are able to mirror back without an agenda. Mm-hmm. And without that, we cannot be a better version of ourselves. Like you mentioned your wife, there's no greater relationship than that intimate partnership to, be able to shine the light on parts of ourselves, themselves, of, what might be needing to be polished or let go of. And it's the same in business. And you even said for yourself, you've got coaches, you've got communities, and you've got friends. And I think one of the things for me when I went into business on my own, whilst I was in a community, I didn't understand the value of community. In fact, I thought being on my own and being this soldier, so to speak, this was the way to go. And after a number of years, I realized that was actually a very lonely road. And it's through the support, the love, the trust, and the compassion of other people without an agenda that are there for you I think, that help us in so many ways. And we can't do business, we can't grow. I don't think we can be fully successful and become the best versions of ourselves unless we have people around us.
Yeah, I would agree totally. And I love what you do with Six Star Business. And it's a community of people who want to improve and they want to be better and do better. And they want to help others do the same. It is fantastic. I think it's wonderful.
Thank you, Joe. Yeah, I wake up every day and I kind of go, where did this come from? It's like, but here it is. And it's growing, it's magnetic, and people love being in it because they get to become better versions of themselves. That's why we do it. And hearing you speak about your journey, the work that you do, just really brings home the importance of having good people around us. And, for what you do in your work, hats off to you. And I think your clients would be they're very lucky to have you, actually, given the experience and the outlook that you have, especially the one where you said there's no box, the thinking outside the box. Well, there is no box. It's, everything is possible.
Yeah, it's all possible. And, it's just, I'm very blessed to be able to do what I do and the way that I do it. It's so much fun, and I love small business. I talk small business all day long. Right? Some people talk sports. Some people talk politics. Me, it's all about business. I love it.
Wonderful. So tell me, okay, the $1 million question, Joe, what does a 6-star business mean to you?
I think of a 6-star business. You can't have a 6-star that is one-dimensional. There's a holistic feeling about it. As when I think about a star with 6 points, I think of something that is looking in all directions, that is encompassing everything. So you've got to look at, a 6-star business is a full holistic business. It's the business. It's the person. It's the relationships. It's the improvement. It's the journey. And I think, we're all looking to be better. We're not looking to be perfect. I hope, but being excellent, in pursuit of excellence. I think that was a book, right? It wasn't in the pursuit of perfection. It was in pursuit of excellence. Perfect is something I don't think we can obtain on this plane, but we can obtain excellence. And that means something different to each person. And I think, what you do with 6-star business and getting people together to improve and to be better versions of themselves, I just think that's awesome.
Thank you. You said it. I love your answer. I love what you said. And that's exactly it. Everyone is different. We've all got a different version of what 6-star is or what excellence is for us. But it's about the pursuit of that. And it's ongoing.
Yes, it is ongoing. I don't think we ever arrive.
No, exactly. Couldn't agree more. And that's been some of the agreed, conversation within the 6-star community as well. It's ongoing. Yeah.
Yes.
Love it.
Yes.
What do you see as being one of the biggest challenges for people to achieve their goals or 6-star, if that was a goal, to be the best versions of themselves?
I think a lot of people suffer from self-limiting ideas, thoughts, beliefs that we don't believe it's possible. And so much is possible out there and within yourself and where you express yourself and what you do. So much is possible. I think we don't set goals that are big enough. Now, you're not going to get there right away. You can change direction today. You can change direction right now, but you can't change destination today. But you can change the direction to go to the destination that you desire. And I think that's the important thing. It's one of the privileges of being human. We can choose the direction that we want to go. And people say, well, I have a job and I work and I have a family. I say, you know what? I know 100 women who have jobs and children, and they still started a business.
Yeah.
It may not be perfect situation to start a business, but it can be done. And it has been done. You just, I think about it, and I was talking with someone, actually it was a podcast interview, and he was talking about AI. And he's like, you could write a book this weekend. You could download the Kindle app and turn it into a Kindle book. You can use the Chat GPT to write that book and give ideas, put it together. And this weekend you could have a book out there selling it for $2 or $7, whatever it might be. Yeah, you could do that. The other idea he gave was not so enticing, but he said, look, if you're a young kid and you want to make some money, buy yourself a 5-gallon bucket, a pooper scooper, and go to your neighbors and say, look, your dog poops in the backyard in your fence, and I bet you don't like picking that up. For $10 a week, I'll come by twice a week and I'll pick it up. You would have clients this weekend.
That's right.
That would start your business.
I'm going to mention that to my boys after this and see what they think.
Yeah, well, my children are glad they live in Italy, because I'd have them doing that here just for the laugh factor.
Yeah.
My son, the pooper scooper.
I'm such a proud father. Oh, Joe, absolutely love it. Look, I so love what you do. I'm in awe, I think, and inspired by you. Really, I am. And I always admire people who go on the adventure and who are open to what life brings, and they respond. And that's who you are, and you live that every day. So I just want to honor you for that. And thank you for your contribution to the world, to your clients, and to this podcast. It's been wonderful having you here.
Thank you. That means a lot to me.
You're welcome. But you can't go yet. I do have one final thing I need to ask you. And this is where I get to ask you, could you leave us with a tidbit or a piece of advice, or maybe the first a step that you'd like to leave our listeners with, please?
Yes. Here's the thing. And there's lots of things, but here's what I'm inspired to share with you today. Know where you want to go. Have a goal. Have an objective where you want to go, and then take the first step. You don't need to plan the whole thing out like shooting that rocket to the moon, but take the first step. Get on the launch pad. Figure out what you need to learn, who you need to connect with, who can help you, and start on the list. If you need to acquire knowledge. Books, you can buy almost any book in the world for $20 or less. And if you don't have $20, go buy yourself a 5-gallon bucket. And make $20. And you can start to learn. And learn what you need to learn so that you can do what you want to do. Don't let someone else make those decisions for you.
Brilliant.
That's what I would say.
I love it. Thank you. Thank you so much to the bottom of my heart, Joe. And I hope our listeners enjoyed that as much as I did. And hopefully, maybe if you're listening to this on the podcast, on an app, or one of the players, just rewind and just play the last few minutes again, okay? Because there's a lot in what Joe just said, and it's really inspiring, helpful, and comes from a place of a lot of experience.
Yeah.
So,
well, thank you for that. It's been a pleasure to be here. And I do want to mention, I have a website that is called Gapologist. It's gapologist.com. That has all the links, all the contact information. So if you're not into reading show notes, just go to gapologist.com.
Brilliant. Thank you. And is there anything else that you'd like to share with the listeners, or is that the main place to go to find you, Joe?
That is the main place to go, because from there, it's a mini website, but it has links to everything.
Yeah, wonderful. Please go and check that out. You won't be disappointed. Yeah.
Yeah, and I would love to meet some of your listeners. That would be awesome. I don't care where they are in the world.
Wonderful.
Great?
It's a global audience. So
Yeah.
wonderful. Thank you, Joe. It's been a pleasure, and I look forward to connecting with you again soon.
Thank you. I appreciate what you do, Evelyn. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Bye.